startup world is a tough ecosystem to access for any individual, with multiple barriers and hurdles on the way. While for most entrepreneurs, lack of funds is a barrier to start a new venture, but for women, that's just one of the many stumbling blocks that they have to face through the journey. The South Asian nation has as many as 16 million women-owned businesses, fewer than 20% of all enterprises, with most of them largely single-person operations, out of which, strangely, only 8% get funded. During the pandemic, disruptions have been disproportionately impacted women entrepreneurs and their businesses. More than 73% of women entrepreneurs have been hit by the crisis, with nearly 20% seeing their revenues completely wiped out. Even in cases where businesses did not see an immediate decline in revenue, growth has remained fairly muted. While some studies show that women-owned businesses have better company ethics, high values, and limpidity. So let's understand by a women entrepreneur herself why funding women-run businesses is equally important in the nation.
The basic core problem is we have seen so less women, entrepreneurs. If we would have seen good number of women entrepreneurs coming, definitely the funding would have been shown, happening in women run startups. But there are so less co-founders or founders and CEOs who are women. So that is the basic first reason. Second thing is that when we talk about investors, they are most of corporates, right? So when it comes to women who is leading the company, the corporate people definitely think that a men-led organization would be more, giving more of returns than a woman-led organization. I'm a girl, right? And I started when I was 19. It was not just the age factor. It was also a confidence factor which lagged from many people whom I was pitching to, and of course when it was coming to creating pitch decks or creating easy to pitch, my whole sole funda of bringing up easy to pitch was this only because I was individually facing a lot of problem when it comes to pitching. Eventually I overcome those problems on my own by my all struggle. But yes, I do feel that somewhere I did face this challenge that people consider me, I'm a girl and I might not get that much revenue, that too in this finance industry, which is totally male driven. So yes, I did face this challenge earlier when I started Easy to Pitch. The government is also supporting a lot of women entrepreneurs through a lot of criteria, whether it's taxes, rebates, and a lot of things. If a woman entrepreneur is having the maximum number of shares in the organization. When I talk to entrepreneurs or founders of startups that are led by women, or even women who are co-founders, I definitely throw light on these things because of course there are a lot of benefit for the women entrepreneurs if they are leading a company and showing that they are the face. Number two, that they can take any number of opportunities from the government schemes, and even now investors have realized that having women as a face of an organization is very, very important because the selling skills are definitely good in the male entrepreneurs, but women entrepreneurs can do hundreds of multitasking together with good cost-effective strategies, right? So this has been, an understanding to be taken, which has been taken by the investors now and accepted by the investors. So when I talk to these founders, I definitely recommend that if you have women entrepreneurs, take the full benefit of their face and ask them to pitch every strategy that you want to carry in your further roadmap and for which you're raising funds. So I definitely suggest this to maximum number of founders who have women entrepreneurs. When I talk about filtration, there are very, very critical points that we come up with to the founders that they have to take care of it. Mostly, of course, number one is the storyline. Whatever you pitch, whatever you're bringing up as a startup or an idea, you really need to have a story behind it, from where it started to where it will go and where are you right now. So when you talk about this whole journey, it has to be very both dramatic and crisp. right? So in that case, the story works pretty well when you're pitching to the investors. Number two is the validation. Now with investors also had their experiences where they failed. They risked to put money in the startup and nothing came as a return, right? So eventually they learned their experiences, right? So now when we talk about investments happening, they definitely keep in mind that a validation is there, no matter how big is the market. We know that it's a $100 billion market, $20 billion market, but eventually it is something how much you would serve in the near time, right? So it's not about how big is the market, but a validation, whether it's a small validation or a bigger validation. So your storyline, your validation, and of course the team of execution. The team has to be full-time dedicated to the startup, and that's the biggest criteria that investors look for now, because eventually, no matter what's the business plan, it will change with time, right? But the people who are executing it are the most important people on this earth, because they're putting money on them, not on the startup and not on the business model right now. So these three things are very much important to showcase very nicely when you're making a pitch to any investor right now. This era had been really difficult for both of the sides, whether it's startups, whether it's investments. You could see a good fall of 30% in this year of investment, and when we close the financial year, you'll definitely get the numbers. But when I talk about the coming time, I'm sure this is going to increase. Investments did happen, it will definitely happen. It's just that investors are more sensitive now towards investing in the right industry and watching long-term projection, whether the company would stay sustainable even when the money is not coming, like infusing in, and would go without any stoppage or any barrier, that kind of barriers that happened right now during pandemic. And yes, it will, next year is a kind of booming for industry like financial industry, travel and hospitality. I would say that yes, it will take time to come back to the same picture which was last year. But yes, the investment scenarios will definitely increase in fintech and education sector.
So unlocking entrepreneurship amongst women in India is a complex effort, but it is one that provides an unprecedented opportunity to change the economic and social trajectory of India and its women for generations to come. Startup incubators can play a decisive role and take efforts in ensuring parity and prosperity for women entrepreneurs at a larger scale.